Welcome, folks. You're hearing some nice music in the background. Day one cleansing. Decided not to do the hands in the background today. Day one, unshaven and raw. So I'm going to turn that music off now. There we go, folks. Okay, so today the plan is I have been planned on the first two to be 5 minutes each, and the first one was 30, and the second one was 30, I think. So won't make any claims today. The plan is I sent the email out to the small group, and there's a Telegram group now. It's kind of Health Alchemy support group on Telegram, private by invite only, because there'll be some probably vulnerable shares. And so for me, I'm going to go through in a couple of older PowerPoints. I'm going to go through the prep week. So this will be billed as video blog prep week into week one. So I'll go through both of those PowerPoints to keep me on track, because I can get off track, as those of you who know me. And keep this offering, it's a free offering to the public. And then there's also, a deeper element of support that the people who pay get. So that's kind of what you're paying for, is the support and whatnot. And I'm at a point now where I don't even care, because we want people cleansing to get clear. If you think cleansing, back to some definitions, there's two previous video blogs where we kind of go through that a little more, but to keep it clear, it's cleaning. And then the nuts and the bolts of it are eating foods that we know are going to burn clean without a lot of friction. And I'm going to describe that. Let's go into that right now, actually. So I have a little PowerPoint that I kind of was making for other things, and then I decided to go ahead. So let's start off with just a little visual here. So you have a cell, okay? So that's a cell in your body. And if you think of the Earth as a cell in the galaxy, and you're a cell on the Earth, and we have cells inside of us, debatable, and so I talk about cellular intelligence and quantum stuff. And so think of the cell as a being, okay? If you have to do a leap of faith and do so, you have this being, and it has all the attributes that the human does. It has to make energy, right? It has to get rid of waste and take in nutrients. So somehow this membrane here, which we'll get on our laser pointer, this membrane here is made of cholesterol, fat, and protein. Let me repeat that. This membrane is made of cholesterol, fat, and protein. So you need high quality, because guess what? This membrane, it's the brain of the cell. It's not the DNA in the middle. That's sort of the hard drive storage of the cell, memory banks and how to make new stuff. Maybe it's the penis and the vagina of the cell. You could say that maybe too. All right, so there's your DNA right there. And it's in red. So then you've got these little mitochondria. And no, there's not one mitochondria per cell, folks. Some cells have 20,000, some have 500. And apparently the mitochondria can be made on demand if the body needs more energy and we're healthy. So we'll say we got a couple of mitochondria in there. Okay, it's got some mitochondria in there making energy. So they're taking in oxygen and iron, and they're managing it with copper and magnesium. A lot of the elements you've seen in play and the mainstream press about immunity and whatnot are completely skewed and unrealistic, like taking zinc without its copper partner, taking ascorbic acid without the whole food complex of C, which is a water-soluble form of light. That's right. Vitamin C is a water-soluble form of light. So you're not getting that from ascorbic acid from GMO corn syrup from China converted to this thing. You're definitely not getting that. So there's lots of things that we don't understand, these mysteries of life, and we have to start with humility that we don't really understand. And I'm kind of doing my best to point out what I've seen in 35 years. Look at these mitochondria, and they're making energy, and you want them to burn that oxygen and iron cleanly. And that's where we have an enzyme to digest iron called ferroxidase. Think ferroxidase. We have another one made of copper called ceruloplasmin. And there's all these rate limiting steps in the enzymes. And what's an enzyme? An enzyme is like what carries out all the functions of the body. Couldn't live without an enzyme. It's like trying to build a house without construction workers, So if you don't have construction workers, you can't build the house. You might have the idea to build the house. You might have the blueprints, but you ain't going to build the house without the workers. And so the enzymes are sort of the workers. And guess what they're made out of? protein. So if you start to really see, protein is crucial for life, fat's crucial for cell membrane health, and then carbohydrates are not necessary for life. For some people, they're necessary for proper energy metabolism, and that's the carb type person. We'll go into that maybe at some point during this video blog series on cleansing. So that's in other videos on my YouTube channel. So then you've got a lot more mitochondria than I thought in this guy. Then you have waste, and I just kind of did a scribble on the little art thing of this. So you've got this waste cruising around. The cell's got this waste, okay? Whether it's chemical waste, heavy metal waste, normal metabolic waste, microbial waste. Probably wouldn't see too much microbial waste inside a cell, but maybe, sure. And then there's radiation damaged tissue waste, which, kind of starts out here. The radiation damage starts out in the membrane because the lipids, the fats get oxidized. They get altered, not necessarily oxidized. And then they start to change their shape and function. And then we can show you that throughout the cleanse of live blood cell analysis, what a normal cell under a microscope looks like and what distortions look like. Quite fascinating. So there's little immune cells, we call them macrophages, and they cruise around, they eat up all this. See, every living thing eats and poops. And our cells have to make energy, and it has to poop also. So it has to take in nutrients here through the membrane. They come in and do their thing, and then it has to poop, right? So these guys are cruising around and they're eating up the waste. A few on the outside and in the plasma. So then there's these D isomers. And you think of, when you go to the health food store and you buy L-tryptophan or L-glutamine, well, guess what? There's a other-handed molecule partner, the D isomer. And that's sort of like trans fats versus normal fats, but not quite. And so you've got these, when you make something synthetically, you make its wrong-handed partner. And I call it the trump card of nature. So when you make a lot of synthetic fragrances or synthetic artificial flavors or synthetic artificial colors, guess what? You get these wrong-handed molecules in the body, and they clog up the machinery. If nothing else, they're the wrong frequency. Because if we go on the premise that cells aren't reading chemistry, they're reading frequency, and what we call chemistry is actually a frequency, then we're kind of getting somewhere. So these D isomers have to be taken care of somehow. And so my question is, are they transformed? Are they transmuted? Are they gobbled up? Because they're made of molecules, they're made of elements. So maybe these little Pac-Man guys right here can eat them up. And where does the excrement go? All right, move on to the next. So the next set of cells here, we have the excrement has to go somewhere outside the cell. So then there's a little, let's make a little gate there. This is conceptual. This isn't what's actually going on. And then the waste, the guy's gobbled it up and he's carrying it out of the body. And then, so the lymph is what the cells go to the bathroom in. You could call it the lymph/plasma. I'm going to keep this very simple and not get stuck in medical and physiological dogma about labeling terminology. Just think you have a cell floating around in something, whether they call it lymph, plasma, it doesn't matter right now for the simple discussion. And so everything has to eat and everything has to poop. And so these things have to poop. And then you have this plasma full of waste, right? And that's why you have lymph nodes along here and lymph nodes here, because they're filtering stuff and transforming stuff. And yes, transmuting even. People talk about, oh, the liver, it's got all these toxins in it because it's filtering everything. No, it's not like a mesh filter. That's not how it works. It's a transmutation device. So there are parts of our body and microorganisms, they can transmute silica to calcium, for example. And sodium and potassium are also transmutable. And there's lots of experiments on this I won't go into now. So this stuff gets thrown out into the bathroom sink, into the toilet, if you will. And then these are my, I know my artistry isn't great. So everything that gets taken out of the cells, and now you have individual cells cruising around, and those will be represented by these big long arrows. And so they're heading back towards the center of the body. So that's what all this waste in the green arrows is doing. All this stuff in the green arrows is waste moving its way back. And so you might ask yourself, does it know? Is it magnetically attracted? And no, it's sort of pumped, but remember, the heart's not really a pump and the circulatory system isn't really a set of pipes. there's an intelligence of bringing it back to its major transmutation centers or transformation centers. And so they're all moving in a certain direction, and then they're going to head back to the liver and the spleen right there, noted in green and red, color coded. And then when they're finally processed, it ends up being dumped out next to the heart, kind of up in here. You could call it the vena cava or superior inferior vena cava. I don't remember the exact anatomy term, but you're thinking that stuff is moving back towards the center for ultimate transmutation and then to be moved back out. It's kind of like oxygen gets filled up in the lungs, put into the cells, brought out for the what we just saw, for that process in the cell to occur, to make energy right there. And then you want your fuel to burn clean. You want the minimum exhaust from your fuel, okay? So that's where this comes into play here. If you have a lot of exhaust, your liver and your spleen will not be so happy. They'll be under too much stress. Your heart will be under stress. And then your blood work will start to show markers like your bilirubin. Your bilirubin will elevate. Your liver enzymes will elevate. And if you have a lot of free radical damage, then your cholesterol will elevate. And if your triglycerides elevate, you're eating too much sugar. And so there's lots of things we can look at in the blood work that show, because sugar causes free radical damage. And so we want to make sure that the final dumping ground near the heart, that the heart is in good shape. Because the heart has an electrical component and sort of a more of a vascular or a, quote, pump component. I think that was it for this sequence. Yes, that's it for that sequence, folks. All right. So you just got a little taste of a little PowerPoint there. So we'll go into a couple of things just logistically for you guys. On the if you're on the cleanse email, this is the first cleanse email that went out to a small group of us, and they get the access to, there's a Zoom, going to be a Zoom group, open office hours for the next 3 Thursdays from 5 to 7 p.m. This is the link to it. You have to register. I'll be putting these links out on public media. And then there will also be there's 2 meetings. Sunday morning, the next 3 Sundays. So we have what did I put on here? The 16th, 23rd, and 30th at 9 to 11 a.m. And then we're going to have Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. And if you're really interested in something more higher level, then Monday morning, that would be the Monday morning. Well, anyways, we'll go that would be the 29th, it looks like. I could send you on the email. There's going to be a mastermind group. So if you're a practitioner and you're a high level human being, then you can come into this mastermind group and bring in your high level health questions. And that there is a fee for that, but some people could be grandfathered in if they, quote, asked, laugh out loud. Okay, so there's a YouTube playlist, which is right here, of the current work. So I already have 2 talks up. So there's pre-cleanse talk 1 day prior, 2 days prior. How are we going to sort that, folks? The newest to the oldest? Yeah, let's have the newest at the top and the oldest as it goes down. How's that? So 2 days prior. So then this one will be posted at the top of this list. And the link, again, is right here. Daily video blog. Then oops, I have to go back now. Then there's an old one with PowerPoints. And that's right here. And there's a one at the bottom that's quite fascinating, how to increase and decrease cleansing. Highly recommended. I'll be posting that at some point, how to increase and decrease cleansing. And we'll watch it together for one of these calls, I'm sure. And then there's a talk with the associated PowerPoints here and here. So these talks, this link right over here on the left takes you to these PowerPoint. And it's a folder in this larger folder here. 21-day previous colon lung cleanses right there. Okay, that's logistics. So there's lots of good support. And then my personal raw is these are the weekly stuff. So here's the first week that's up right now. And that's in the Cleanse Cover Master Sheet, which the resource page, that's where it takes you to, is this. And then the master sheets, the third one down, the challenges, which are available on the website. There's the website. The challenges are available there if you don't want to sign up for anything or get on an email list. So the basic food charts on the recommends, like the widest possible eating. So for me, I'm going to use the basic food chart a lot. And I'm going to use, let me just pull it up. Wasn't planning on it, but I guess it's needed. So the basic food chart is just really easy, folks. You can have anything on this chart, unless you want to customize it, and we could talk. But to make it the easiest possible cleanse, I've made it as wide. Look at all those vegetables on the left. There's 2 columns of vegetables in 3 categories of sugar. So if you want to do more paleo, then you have the vegetables on the far left. See the lowest carbs right there. Then you have the medium carbs here in the middle, and then there's ones at the bottom in yellow. There's optional beverage ideas. There's some fruit, lower carb fruit ideas. This might need to be revised. I'm looking like pineapples are pretty high carb, and then oils and fats are sort of discouraged, but raw butter would definitely be cleanse worthy. And then tend to avoid nuts. These are the seeds that I generally allow right here. Almond milk, fresh homemade almond milk is definitely cleanse worthy. Sesame milk, hemp milk, pumpkin milk. These are some nice herbal teas I usually like. Even eucalyptus isn't a bad tea for the lungs. And then if you're a protein type, you want to focus on these proteins here. And there's been debate about, can I eat raw meat and still cleanse? Well, why do people with the cancer diet with Max Gershon, they would eat raw liver and wheatgrass and coffee enemas, and they would heal from cancer. So yes, you can have raw. I would recommend, if you're a protein type, then you have your raw organ meats like liver. You could have raw fish, the high fat fish. And then if you're more of a carb type, then if you wanted to do animal protein, then you're probably not going to crave fatty stuff anyway. So it would be like very light fish like cod or snapper. And you can marinate it in a lot of lemon juice and a lot of garlic and a lot of salt. And then you add it to something else, and it's going to be quite delicious. So that's where the recipes come into play. And that's right here also on the Cleanse Cover Master Sheet. Kind of has everything you need. So you can go to this recipe link right here. And this is the newest version. I updated it in July, just over the summer here. So there's liver marinades in there and fish cakes. And if you want to have cooked protein, that's okay, like fish cakes or meatballs. But just realize if you have cooked food, especially cooked protein on either side, carb or protein type, you're probably going to slow down your cleansing. And that's okay, because we got to make it through this kind of WW3 scenario. So for some people, I don't recommend grains. For most people, even carb types. If you're a carb type and you want to cleanse, I would do bean sprouts. And I would do, the only grain I might consider would be wild rice. And then I might even just do quinoa, like sprouted quinoa raw, or made into a pizza crust or something. And we have recipes for that in the recipe favorite. So there's recipes for everything, folks. But that's why we do the group too. If you need support, come on in, ask for help. And also for the protein types, and you want to cleanse and you need fat for the colder weather, you got olives, you got avocados, you got raw butter. The question about dairy is definitely up for debate. I'm going to be drinking cream throughout this cleanse. It's just not an option for me to lower my fat content much. And I don't have raw cream available for a few more weeks. But that's the way to go. If you want to do dairy, the least obtrusive for some people would be ghee, but ghee is cooked, so it's going to require enzymes. I would believe raw butter. You could do raw goat butter, raw sheep butter, raw yak butter, raw cow butter, whatever works for you. But make sure it's raw, grass-fed, organic. Then we're looking at olives are a good source of fat. I don't think olive oil is as cleanse worthy. I would try to avoid oils, and definitely no frying. And that's where the cover sheet shows you kind of like, if you do this basic food chart here, and you do what's on the cover sheet here, where there's a basic set of things you got to skip. See, don't eat late. These are rules. These are not laws. They're not rules. They're just guidelines, right? So we could say basic cleansing guidelines, right? Maybe that's a little bit softer. That sounds better already. Okay, so no fry, don't eat late, don't fry. When you heat oils, it's back to that cell. Remember that cell? If you put damaged oils in the body, you're going to have stupid cells, and then you're going to have immune problems. And that's one of the roots of immune problems is shitty fats in your diet. That's right. Craig said shitty fats in your diet is a major source of immune problems. Is anybody else talking about that? No, but that's the reality. All my practitioner friends would agree with me, but just no one puts it out there because we have a lazy, low value culture about food preparation. I'm sorry, I'm in it too. I'm definitely part of it. So I own my own laziness, but we need raw fats and more raw foods. We don't have to be a raw foodist. I don't like extremism. So carbohydrates are generally best cooked. You could live on raw potatoes, but they're kind of tastier cooked, and some people are probably more digestible. That would be another debate. So anyways, alcohol, coffee, definitely off the plate. Getting enough waters for sure. No foods made from ground flour. We'll go into this in more details later or by question. And then there's the dairy question. So it's ghee and raw butter, raw cream, kind of next level of impact, low next. And then maybe raw milk yogurt, raw milk kefir, definitely on some level cleanse-worthy for some. And then cheese is out of the question, especially if they're made with refined salt. I was telling my team that, for my personal kefir cheese recipe, for 1 cup of curd, which this is kefir right here. So for 1 cup, which is that much right there, see my hand, you add a tablespoon of salt to make it salty enough to make it cheese. So imagine a tablespoon of refined salt in every cup of cheese they're making. And then you've got a lot of bad, too much hot sodium and the wrong kind of sodium chloride, basically. And so you want all those other trace elements in there. So the cheeses you definitely want to avoid, either unless you're making your own or your cheese is made from raw milk, or you could do a saltless cheese too, which the WeWantToLive.com, the Primal Diet, Agenus Vonderplanets is that guy's name. And don't ask me to spell it right now. Laugh out loud. Animal protein best left to a minimum for maximum cleansing. If you need to be out and about, then there's the dance that you're going to be in. And I'll be talking about this over the coming days. When you're out there and about and you got to be working, you got to be with other people, and if you're empathic, the less you eat, the more your boundaries open up for others. So it's really important that you need calories when you're out there with people to keep your boundaries. And so for me, it would be like, okay, the easiest possible slightly cleanse-worthy high calorie thing would be raw eggs, raw butter, and raw honey. And you could dilute it with fruit, add some blueberries, or there's apples are in season, and puree it raw, and then carry that around with you throughout the day. And that's got the nice solid protein, the nice solid carbs, nice solid fat. If you wanted to add a little flax oil or chia seeds to it, you could round out the EFA profile with your saturated fat and a little more unsaturated. So that's a good base. So that's a raw custard. And I still don't think I have it in the recipe favorites yet. All oils need to be uncooked and raw. If you're a protein type, you can have all the oils you want on a cleanse, just don't cook them. If you're autoimmune, you probably want to avoid nightshades. You can go into that. Grains and beans, again, that's not absolute. Some people believe khichdi is a great cleansing food. I never found it to be so for myself. I don't think I could live on it, but I could live on raw liver and a salad for the rest of my life. I wouldn't say I liked it, but that's definitely optimum energy. And then there's the rest right there. No packaged milks, no nut or seed butters. Anything that's ground up, folks, is stale. I mean, you can't have flour foods on a cleanse and expect to cleanse because it's so rancid and stale and oxidized, and you can't believe what it's doing to your body. I mean, when you leave them out, you see. So there's that. And let's go down the first week again. So the first week is kind of like accelerate detoxification. So I'm going to go now into a couple of PowerPoints. So there was your website again. If you want to schedule a phone call, free 15-minute right up there in the right corner. And you can go check out the full script pages here. There's 2 different versions of a cleanse. And I'm going to go the website off now. So this is a cleanse PowerPoint that has the talk on the PowerPoint link, but I'm going to quickly go through this. And if somebody wants to just use this time that I'm putting up here, I'm going to make it just keep myself on track. So there's some great stuff about Chinese 5-element about the cosmology around the large intestine and the lung. And I'm not going to go into this, but there's some things here that you can freeze the video and have a look at this later. There's a circadian rhythm to the body. This is the Chinese version of it. That's why I teach natural law. There's unarguable phenomena occurring in the universe that's subtle, that I've been trained to observe and measure, but others have not yet. And this is one of those. Ayurveda has a version, Chinese medicine have a version, the Greeks had a version, the Indians had a version. So it's mapping out this system of how life works. And then see, there's more information there. I'll try and keep this so you could actually get it. There you go. So you could get this whole thing, you pause it right there. So there's lots of interesting things about these characters. Remember, Chinese see through characters in their language. And the yang force that sustains all life on Earth. Isn't that interesting? The large intestine is the official of the transmission of the way. Change and transformation emerge from it. But there's all kinds of different translations. And yes, folks, there's a worm that came out of me right there. So the body's agenda and life itself is not comfort, folks. I was just telling a client earlier that when the being, our emotions, our body, our physiology, our cells, our spirit, when it has enough resources, it moves forward. And the thing that's moving forward isn't our ego. There's a transpersonal part. I just call it my switchboard back here. And the switchboard, or the transpersonal self, moves through what we call the us. And its agenda is to continue the process that it's doing. And our comfort as a three-dimensional ego is not part of its agenda. That's what I was telling this client about PTSD. PTSD is awareness's fascination with a moment of stress. And then we keep the loop going by resisting. And if we just lean in a little bit, and I'm not saying rape and trauma is easy to lean into, but we have to at least be a little curious to open the portals of awareness and let it come through. You see for yourself. Being facilitated with support is another way of working your way through this. So there's some notes in here I'm not going to go into, but vital force is self-regulating and self-preserving. And again, pain is sometimes part of the process of healing. So during the prep week, these are the things I was telling you guys that I was assessing. All these medications we want to leave out. Asking the right questions. Catarrh is an unhealthy form of mucus. You can see it on the tongue. See, normal mucus is full of toxins. See, the original purpose was to encase the irritant or pathogen. And then if it gets stuck somewhere. So there's 6 stages of congestion. And we can tell where, through studying the whites of the eyes, where someone is, whether they have mucus buildup and irritation. Usually these first 3 kind of go together. And then the hardening will either or with encapsulate something, and then the tissue damage. And then once you get tissue damage, abscess, and ulceration, you may not be able to recover the function. If you have nerve damage somewhere, sometimes you can't get it back. But up till step 5, anything's recoverable, even if you're 70 or 80. I've seen it happen, folks. Even bones healing in a 70-year-old, bone growth. So there's some resources. Fasting is the dropping away of foods, and generally fasting brings about cleansing, but cleansing does not have to be done. You don't have to fast to cleanse. And this cleanse is not a fast per se. There's some other elements to the large intestine, the metal element I'm not going to go into. Here's the overall theme. So in week 1, we're just trying to loosen stuff up and accelerate our body's ability to get the shit out of the cells and out of the tissues and out of the organs. That's basically it. And we're trying to kick out the old messy microbes, the old tenants that are in our body too, that will go with that waste. And then the second week, we're generally trying to bind stuff that we just stirred up in step one. So just think, you got everything out of your closets in your bedroom and all the trash out of your bedroom, and now it's in a garbage can outside the bedroom. So week 2 is about putting it into the bigger garbage can, which is like the bigger organs, the liver, spleen, and the drainage outlets. And then week 3 is about having the garbage out and then rebuilding from scratch. And generally 3 to 4 weeks is good for a habit reset, but don't kid yourself that one cleanse is going to do it. Not even close in today's world. So you're looking at a process that you initiate of unlayering yourself. And that's kind of what, so this is a good way to look at it though. It's conceptual, but it also is played out that way by the foods. See, these foods here on week 1 accomplish this. These foods week 2, see, same theme. So the foods chosen, your focus foods in week 2 accomplish the week 2 goals. And then week 3, you'll notice the foods accomplish that goal if you focus on them. No shoulds. So there's the prep that I just went through. The number 4 is my most important one. Watch the mind, stories of drama. Schedule time. So that's what this is about, folks. So I'm on day 1. Sorry, I got this bug that seems to be bugging me here. Buggy bug. So on the 21 days, then see, today was about setting my intentions, decided no fast, and raw is the goal. And I had a tiny little thin rice paper thing on these rolls I get from the store down the street. And it was raw salmon roll for lunch, and then a raw shrimp. Oh, no, it was shrimp. Yeah, I cooked shrimp roll for dinner. It's like little shredded cucumbers and carrots and greens, and yeah, a little bit of rice paper wrap, and then yeah, pasteurized cream in the mate to keep me off of coffee. So I did a cup of black tea, cup of mate today. Pretty intentions. Why am I doing this? So in terms of a typical day, today I didn't get up until 9-ish. I still haven't really filled in a typical day what I'm going to be doing, but I have on the fasting days. So you'll notice, what activity am I doing? What type of rest and what kind of orientation? So if you're in this group, you get access to the journal through the emails. No other person gets access unless they contact me, because this is part of the exclusive support part. So if you're watching this video, you can see it being done, but you won't get access to the sacred kingdom unless you sign up somehow, some way, to get in inside the inner door, I guess we'll call it. There's the week 1 shopping list suggestions. It is based on this list here. Everything fits together. So in the prep week, you want to shop, right? There's some recipes, ideas there. So season of circles, so do circular exercise. I just did about 10 minutes of yoga. So you can see here in the upper right there, we can kind of focus on that. So we're down in grief versus respect. Heading into fear, reassurance, trust, anger, compassion, action, sadness and joy, worry, sympathy. So we're ending the worry, sympathy season and entering the grief, respect season. And we're ending the, what you can just read that. And you can read that. And please freeze those if you like. We're going to get rid of that PowerPoint now. And so this is the week 1 PowerPoint. I'm just going to really quickly go through it. And we'll talk a little bit more about it maybe tomorrow. But I figured if you want to look at this, then this is, you can freeze these little shots here. And these are little motivating slides for you. This is the large intestine kind of anatomy. and really interesting stuff. The portal veins here, what the cell looks like, the absorption of fat. A little bit more about the colon, 5-element theory. Really interesting stuff, folks. Talk about your inhaling versus exhaling ratios, your bowels loose or tight. These are all part of this rhythm of the meta element, the colon and the lung working together. How's your rhythms in your life? Here's some questions you can ask yourself. Transmutation occurs in the colon. There's the villi in the colon. Then again, there's the shopping list, the week 1 stuff. And then detox stuff that doesn't require food is listed here. You can do that doesn't require any food. There's some recipes focus. So you can go to the recipes favorite on the first page of the cleansing document. I made some green onion sauces based on a cleanse years ago. This client had sauteed green onions and miso. I wouldn't call it cleanse worthy, but it was definitely not, it wasn't horrible. And then there's a little more information here. Sulfur is a big part of this element. And then there's the week 2 shopping list, which would be right there. All right. So now I'm gonna get down to I'm probably gonna go off the screen share now. I think I presented everything I wanted to, except for the daily things. So while we're doing this, I was mentioning from the email, I said, I'll talk about this on the talk. 4th day off coffee, lowering caffeine, which was for me at 600 to 800 milligrams per day. And generally a gram of coffee is about 10 milligrams. And a gram of coffee is not very much coffee, folks. It's like a couple of, I think 3 beans is a gram. So we're going to go off screen share now, and you get to see Craig. So one of the things that you can also do that I haven't done yet is like look at the tongue and that, and notice there's no white on it. It is skewed slightly to one side. Oh, it's going that way. Actually, it's going that way. It skews a little bit. So that's the nervous system. We get these muscle cramps that are even slightly off. And that's when we see the tongue doesn't go straight. You can move it, but what is your natural, like, it's a little bit to that side. So you can check our tongue. You can do a candida spit test. We have a glass of water by you. And first thing in the morning, spit into the water. And there's lots of little things you can check, but some other people kind of wanted to hear Craig's vulnerable truth. So again, why would someone do this? Is this insane to do something in the time of the world where life we're in? And no, my ancestry is very mixed, but I have a strong resonance with the Celtic, Scottish, Irish background. And I know the Celtics didn't maybe originate in Scotland, Ireland. I understand that. I think a lot of our history is skewed, but I have a Danish ancestor, Dutch, German, Portuguese, Irish, Scottish from both parents. So this identity with the Irish, Scottish, and the Bravehearts, and the Jacobites, and the rebels, really, of really living one's truth, is a strong resonance with me. So I want to be clear, though, and if you're a warrior, whether you're a man or a woman, all warrior means is you've got a job to do, in the largest sense of the archetype of the warrior, just got a job to do, and it doesn't matter how I feel about it. So like I get in a dry mouth, so how do I feel about it? I get a little kefir in there. So I want to honor this part of myself that wants to express, and that's generally self-expression, it's heart and throat. And this is my venue. So my art is channeling oration or channeling truth. And then when you feel truth, And so when I'm cleansing, I don't usually eat much when I'm doing body work. Don't eat much when I'm working and doing intimate sessions of connection with people, because food kind of blocks or dulls the connection or the empathy. So my challenge is I'm thin, so getting enough calories in on those other times. And so cleansing to me is quite familiar. And going back to it after, like I said, my normal tolerance of caffeine, so I can show you guys on a quick whiteboard, and you get really get a sense if you see it kind of graphically oriented here. So if my normal tolerance, we'll just say your normal tolerance, let's draw a box, is say, and that's maybe, for me, it's maybe 40 milligrams caffeine. Okay, that's my normal tolerance. And so imagine we'll do a box now, and we'll do it in red because it's a lot of heat. And suddenly, it's not even close the order of magnitude, but where you get the idea. And then suddenly we're at 600 milligrams caffeine. What are caffeine's properties? Well, it's a diuretic, which means minerals lost. It stimulates kidney yang or adrenals, so increased fire. So that means it burns yin, which means its residue, or when it's done burning everything up, is cold and dry. That's what stimulants do. And then I manifest, the symptoms I get are generally irritable, generally dryness, cold hands and feet, always the case on stimulants. And yeah, even sometimes a tired and wired even. And a bipolar mood swings, that we could say. So that's what all that, why is Craig doing that? Then you would ask yourself, Craig, why are you doing that? So the benefit is over here, we'll put it in dark green or something. So the benefit then is there's a anticipatory mood swing. There's a flavor, what I call mouth entertainment. That's right, folks. Most people eat for mouth entertainment. I'm just the first person to talk about it much at all. Mouth entertainment. And then that's body pain, however. In the long run. And I add other herbs like my max mental alert, which is gotukola, bacopa, St. John's wort, ginkgo, rosemary, little calamus root, and rosemary essential oil. And I get those herbs in that way. And I'm taking tonkat ali and it's just a lot, ashwagandha, and I generally take skullcap every day. So there's a lot of stuff going in Craig's diet. And so I could manage it, but is it optimum? No. So you see this amount of caffeine just swallows up. And then in the process of coming back down, of weaning, we call that the caffeine headache, right? Well, yes, but the caffeine headache is nothing more than our own taking responsibility of the consequences for the long-term choice, because caffeine in small amounts opens up circulation to the brain here, but caffeine in large amounts shuts it off by 30%. I'm not joking. These are NCBI, NHI, mainstream studies. This isn't like quackery, baloney stuff. So then the blood flow starts coming back into the brain. And then if you think about that, if you don't have the vascularity to take that excessive circulation going, the microcirculation too, going back in, when the caffeine vessels that are tightened open back up, then you get a headache, right? And that's why if you do a high dose of coffee, like, I've talked to a bunch of people about this. It's happened to me. Oh shit, I need to just get a big cup of coffee and the headache goes away. Well, you just pinched off all the blood that was coming back in. Highly likely. We could have different people talk about this. Someone might disagree with me, but that's what I've observed in the books and in my own life. So I'm down now around. So I had one tocha. It's a 6-gram black tea tocha, 3 mate bags today. Maybe so. The mate is 120 milligrams, 40 milligrams per bag, and then the black tea, a whole 6-gram tocha is probably another couple hundred. There's probably maybe 40 to 60 milligrams per gram in black tea. I don't see it very long though. So yeah, you're probably looking at, and I'm ready to go down to another level tomorrow, break the black tea in half. And then eventually when I run out of it, the goal is after a few more days, I'm gonna run out of everything and then just not buy it, right? Don't have it around the house. And what's the benefit Craig gets from using caffeine? There's also a disassociative removal from feelings. Had a really hard couple of years dating. I'll just be honest. I jump in and really get present with people. And I'm probably too quick to jump, but that's okay because I really want to love. And I know that that desire is not going to go away, right? I see what my grandparents had. So there was that. Then there was a couple of business decisions that didn't go that well. And I could put my resume of suffering up there and say, oh, victim this, blah, blah, blah. I'm on the triangle. I'm in the victim portion today. But on the triangle, I got the hero. Hello, I got the hero thing real good. And then one of my teachers says, oh, great, you got a hero addiction. Then you create victims and perpetrators to satisfy your addiction. And I'm like, oh my God, holy mackerel. So part of getting off of caffeine is feeling more. That's the blunt, raw truth. I was kind of leading into it. And so a lot of us, I'm going to tell you this, and some of you aren't going to like this, but a lot of us are committing slow suicide, and a lot of us are numbing ourselves quite skillfully, but we don't know we're doing both of those. And then years down the road, we see what we've done, and then there's, of course, remorse and regret. But I knew that as a young man, and I know that I'm alive in spite of myself. I didn't think I had a death wish, but I had a death wish. And now we want to turn that death wish into a life wish. And so I'm in the give back part of my life because I had a reverse retirement. I was a very smart young man, very smart child, and I saw what the adults were doing. And I'm like, I'm not going to wait till I'm 65 to retire and enjoy my body and do all the things I want to do. I'm going to do what I need to do as a young man before age 30, maybe even into 30s and 40s, and use this body to enjoy life with a young body, and then give in the second half of my life when I should be, quote, retired. And it's paid off quite nicely. I'm 57 now, and I have my injuries and whatnot, but I can still surf every day. But I'm mainly up here talking to you and cleansing for you because I really admire the Jesus story. I'm not clear that it's the way they say it was, but when you look around the universe and in meditations and men like Yogananda talking about Jesus, and there's definitely a divine force, and that's part of what I'm here to tell you, that I'm cleansing because I'm under orders and I'm directly communing. It's like it's the gnosis thing, and I don't want beliefs. That's why I poke fun at people and do Facebook memes and remind people, like, you want knowing, you want experience, you want gnosis, you want to know directly. Belief is a much lower way of living. Faith even is much lower. We were having this debate about these words, is faith higher than belief? Is belief higher than faith? What does experience get you? What about conclusions? And then where does science fit in, and what about the subtle sciences of the soul? And, there's stuff that's just not talked about. So I'm up here, day one, done. Am I done eating? Well, it's 9 o'clock West Coast time. Definitely done eating. This kefir, a little drinky here, will generally, that's really helpful for me to have a little bit of carbohydrate calories closer to sleep time, but not enough to be physiologically significant in terms of stomach digestion. So this was a 4-day kefir. It went for 4 days. And so this thing doesn't have much sugar left in it. It's basically kefir poop, kefir bug poop. And if you think about your yogurts and your kefirs there, folks, you're not drinking milk anymore. You're drinking bacterial and yeast excrement. That's right. Laugh out loud. And a lot of what you think is not what you think it is. Like waste, humans don't make waste. Humans have transformed stuff from their insides that can go right back into the soil if buried properly and composted and mulched properly. That will nourish your garden and your life, and you don't need to buy soil amendments. But we're not taught how to do that, except for freaks like me that actively practice and been doing it for a lot of years. So why do we cleanse? We've cleansed because my message to all of you is we fit better into the tapestry of life. What you're seeing around you is the untangling and the confusing and the tangling of the web of life, because egos can never have the divine plan at heart. And here's the statement from Adyashanti. The more I know myself, the less I know about myself. Krishnamurti, the famous sage, once said, once the child labels the bird, he no longer knows the bird. Ponder that as you go about your evening, and we'll end on that day 2 tomorrow.